Alrighty, so time for, so far at least, my longest drawn out. It's a good thing you guys just told me that you guys like long drawn outs, because holy moly. This picture took me around 5 hours to make. The speed of this video is 600 times speed. So thank goodness you all told me you like long drawn outs. Because here we are. It's a big one. So to do, okay, this is my patron voted drawn out, the first drawn out of every month my patrons get to vote for, and this month they voted on the option of Nier fan art, which is exciting because one, Nier is like just got its sort of remake, remaster. Nier Replicant just hit the stores in here in the States, and it's really exciting. I've been playing through it with my roommate. So it's on my brain anyway, so I'm really excited. And also that means for like the first time in my entire YouTube life, I'm like current. I'm so bad at like trying to like follow the zeitgeist, or oh, this is popular, let's do the popular thing. Nah, I don't really care about that, but I care about Nier, so I'm excited that I get to draw Nier stuff and talk about Nier. And so yeah, I just want to let you know that there will be some spoilers. I'll try to avoid talking about the plot as much as possible in relation to Nier. But also, so I'm not sure what all bonus content or new content there is in the new version of the game on the PlayStation 4 that just came out. So I'm not gonna talk about that, so if that's what you're worried about, don't worry, I won't be mentioning anything like that, and I do not want to see any spoilers for any new content in my comment section. I will not tolerate any spoilers for the new stuff, for the new version of the game that people might not be aware of yet. So yeah, just be aware, if you spoil something, I will block you and delete your comment, so don't do it. But anyway, let's start really talking about the picture here. So what I chose to do was Nier fighting Halua. I'm not sure. I knew I wanted to do a more exciting image because Nier is such an interesting story. Like the plot and the characters to Nier are such an integral part of the experience to me that it didn't feel right to just draw a character standing around. You know, my usual thing. Like, listen, I love the way, like, Kaine looks and Nier. They look cool, but the fun part about rendering Nier, for me, was sort of capturing the essence of the feel of the game, and not just illustrating a character. I've mentioned that I want to be a little bit more, sort of, like, ambitious with what I do for drawn out, with composition and stuff, because I know I can. You know, it's fun to draw a character standing around, but it's also fun to draw a big cool action scene like this. And so yeah, I did this to myself. So of the bosses, I don't know if I would even necessarily call Halua my favorite. Halua is the girl's name. Technically, this is number 6, but I know her better as Halua. So yeah. Yeah, I think the boss of the game that I think of the most often is Jack, which is the one that attacks the town right before the time skip. But you know, I feel like Jack just doesn't have a very sort of eye-catching design, and I really love the story around Halua and Emil, and it just felt, it had the vibe I wanted to render best. I do think I made her a little too big. I'm willing to admit that. She isn't as large as I've portrayed her here, but I don't care. I really like rendering size. I love playing with scale. It's just really fun to me to like to be able to convey how large or how small something is by using the space of the page and contrasting it with other characters. It's just fun for me. One of my favorite things to do. So, yeah, I cheated a little bit and made Halua a little extra large because I wanted her to feel really imposing because she is. She's one of the scarier bosses. That's for sure. The way she moves affects that a lot. Like, I'd love to know how they mocapped her, because it must have been mocapped, I'm sure. She moves like she's got the arms of a human, but like it's like her legs are mapped to a dog's legs or something. It's really striking. So yeah, I wanted to sort of capture that scary essence of her, which in my head just meant make her bigger. And so that's really fun. I also want to mention that I hope you're excited to watch me draw so many chains. I've never drawn this many chains in a single picture before. It's a pain in the ass because you have to do it one link at a time. Like, there's no easy shortcut to chains, because otherwise it just doesn't look right, you know? Chain links have a very sort of distinct sort of ebb and flow to them as they alternate, and if you don't draw them sort of individually like this, it just doesn't look right. And so yeah, you'll see I get faster at one point as I like level up mid picture in terms of drawing chains. Theoretically you could like get a brush, like, you know, download a brush and it's chains, but oof, I didn't do that. And instead I just drew each one individually. The hard part is corners, is figuring out how a chain reacts by going around something. That's the toughest part. And but I did it. Like, it took an eternity, but it looks great. It was totally worth it, but holy moly. Just a lot. So yeah, I really like how Brother Nier works in Nier Replicant, because for those of you who may not know, there are two versions of Nier: Nier Gestalt and Nier Replicant. Replicant has Brother Nier, which is this younger hero boy who is Yona's brother, and then Gestalt version has an older fella who is Yona's dad. And America, during the first, like, release, the original release of the games, America only got Gestalt version because some higher up assumed America wouldn't want a cute, pretty boy to play as their protagonist, because they're fools. And to some degree, I don't know, I would never have picked to play as Father Nier independently, like if I had both options available from the start. And I like the relationship between Yona and Father Nier more than between her and Brother Nier. I'm not saying that Brother Nier is like a bad protagonist at all, but I just think, I don't know, the story hits a little harder when it's a dad trying desperately to save his daughter rather than a brother saving his sister. It still totally works with Brother Nier. I just liked the vibe of a father more. I also really like his interactions with Vice. They feel like an old married couple, whereas with Brother Nier, it feels more like, well, you know, kind of just a friend, which is great, you know. Everyone does an excellent performance across the board in Nier, so there's nothing wrong with that, but I kind of liked the interactions between Papa Nier and Vice a lot. However, so the time skip. Okay, because with Dad Nier, he kind of just gets a mask. Like, he doesn't really look any older. The time skip doesn't hit very hard because he he just gets a mask. He really doesn't. There's no visible change for him across the 5 years at the time skip. But Brother Nier, like, he grows up. It just hits way harder. He's not a little boy anymore. He looks more battle confident, more battle worn. His voice is different, and it's just, it really hits you a lot better with Brother Nier. And so I think in that regard alone, the replicant version where you play as the brother is so much stronger than with the dad. Brother Nier just, that time skip, it's so effective for what it's trying to do. With the dad, it feels like, you know, it might as well have been a couple of months that passed, but clearly it's been years for the brother, so that's really interesting. Don't be afraid to let me know if you've played both versions. What do you think? Do you like Dad Nier more, or do you like Brother Nier more? I'm excited to hear your thoughts. I guess I should talk about the picture a little bit. So I decided to be a loon here and color in her, like, rib cage, like, by hand, and a part of me was like, I don't need to do this, I could have just fill bucketed this, but I felt like the, sort of scratchy, the scratchy vibe of, like, doing it by hand kind of helped enhance it. I don't know. By the end of the picture, it's definitely not, like, the focus, so maybe this was a waste of my time. But at this point, I already knew I was in for the long haul, because I had drawn a million chains by hand anyway, so why work smart when I can just, I don't know, do it. Her sort of body was really difficult to kind of grasp. You may have noticed that I've got a lot of reference images of Halua, and it's because I was trying to make sure I could get plenty of angles, so I knew, like, how her form worked, because during gameplay, I'm not sitting there trying to focus on how does her, all the nails in her work, you know? But it was really difficult to try to kind of comprehend what exactly was going on. I misinterpreted some of the nails that are, like, embedded in her chest as kind of just decoration on the chains on her for a little bit there. So yeah, it's totally fine. Like, I ended up figuring out as I went, but it was very hard trying to see what was happening with Halua while I was drawing her. This is interesting. I didn't notice that she has, like, skeleton hands. I thought they were just, like, normal human hands. This is cool little detail, I guess. Halua is also, so she's a pretty striking enemy, because she does look very much like Emil, how we all really get to know him, you know? Human Emil barely feels real to me. Ever since, like, skeleton version Emil is on the box art and everything, so that's, it's just, and he's the one that's with you throughout gameplay the most, you know? So this skeleton is what I think of when I think of Emil. And so Halua having that face, but in, like, a sort of distorted, horrific way, it really hits you, especially if you've played the game before and you've already become attached to Emil. And I think that's really fun that they weren't afraid to basically give Emil the face of one of the main bosses of the game. I really like how Nier handles sort of, like, inclusion, you know, because Emil is different, to say the least, and he's clearly really hurt by how he looks at first. He thinks he's ugly, but the others don't even care. Like, they just accept him. You're still Emil. It doesn't matter that you've been in a quote-unquote an accident and are quote-unquote disfigured now. You're still Emil. Even if you think you don't look good, we don't care. We still love you. And I just really, I really like that message. When Kaine wakes up, she doesn't even question it. She's like, oh hey, it's Emil. There's no reaction of her being like, what's happened? She just knows it's him. And she's like, hey, what's up? Nice to see ya. And I just really appreciate how Nier handles inclusion in that way. Kaine as well. I like how Yoko Taro is not afraid to just have people who are different from the quote-unquote normal, and not do it to, like, get points or to make a big fuss about it. Like, for example, Emil is gay, and that's not really ever brought up because it doesn't need to be. Like, he's like, gay people exist. No reason to make a giant plot line around it just to justify him being gay. He's just allowed to be gay. Same with Kaine. Kaine is a hermaphrodite, meaning she has both of the gender genitalia. She identifies as female, and everyone just accepts that. No one is, like, a jerk about it. It's because those people really exist. Hermaphrodites are real. And there's no reason to, like, try to get pity points or prove how woke you are or you know. Yoko Taro made these characters like this because people are like that. And I think that's really cool that these people are allowed to just exist in Nier and to be part of an amazing story. Because if I think about Kaine or Emil, I don't think Kaine, you know, the hermaphrodite. I think Kaine, the amazing badass, the really well-written, interesting character who acts as a friend and a rival kind of simultaneously. Her gender and Emil's sexuality, like, they're a part of who they are, but they don't define them. And I just really respect that. I think Nier is an excellent game, and that's a big reason why. Because it just treats people like people. And that's really cool. So, talking about the picture again, 16 minutes in, and I just finished the line art. This is the length of time most of my drawn outs are in total. And I'm just now beginning flats. Flats, just in case you don't know, that's flat colors, like a base color that I will then add shading and everything to on top of. It took me so long. But it's so worth it in the end, I think. So, you know, I'm glad that... how do I word this? I'm glad that I was able to render this how I wanted. There were a lot of difficult elements in this piece. I know that I'm amazing, and I make it look super easy. But no, for real, you know, things like, Nier's pose in the beginning, and, you know, rendering all those chains properly. You probably noticed that I struggled with Halua's head for a sec there to, like, get it properly round. I'm pretty ambitious with my shading as well. You'll see that in a sec. And I think what happens often with big pieces like this, that I finish them, and I go, great, it's done, I did it! And then, like, the next day, I'm looking at it, and while at the time I was like, it's done, I'm happy with this. After a short amount of time, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is bad, this could be better, I don't like that. You know, I find myself with pieces that tend to take a lot of effort and time, I find myself finding issues with them quicker than I do with more sort of easy, quote-unquote, images. And I'm glad that so far, at least, I have avoided that with this piece. I'm still pretty happy with it. I really like how I rendered Halua's anatomy, and I got the scale right, and when it comes to the, like, lighting and stuff, I like how I convey texture. So, you know, I want to let you know that it's super okay to be unhappy with your art, kind of right after you finish it. Every artist hates looking at their own art after a certain amount of time. Show an artist their old work, even if it's only by, like, a month or so, and they'll probably be like, oh, you know, like, I could have done this better, could have done that better. And it's kind of tough, because it means you never getting to really enjoy your work. But I think that's good. It's important that if you find yourself kind of continually wishing that your art was better, that you finding yourself unhappy with the pieces that you've made, I want to let you know that that's good, because that means you're growing. If you spend your entire life and you think, man, this thing that I drew like 4 years ago, this is excellent. Like, you may have made a really excellent piece. I'm not saying that you're doomed to be bad at art, for all eternity until an arbitrary amount of time has passed. But rather, if you look at every picture you've ever done, or like fan fiction you've ever written, or anything, whatever your art is, music, movies, anything, if over time, if you can't see how you could improve your craft, you can't see how you could have done something differently, done something better, then that means you're not growing. You have to, people can tell you how to improve. Oh, if you did this differently, if you tried doing that instead, people can always offer critique to artists, and that can be very helpful, but at the end of the day, it's up to the artist to actually act upon it. You have to really be able to understand and comprehend how something is flawed, and then how you can fix it. And so if you're looking at your art, and you're like, I don't like this because I could have done it better, that's great, because that means you've improved. That means you can see the flaws yourself. You don't always need a middleman of a teacher or something telling you how to do something better or differently even. If you can do it yourself, that's excellent, and that means that you've grown, and you should be proud of that. So yeah, while it kind of blows to be like, I drew this thing and then a week later I looked at it and I hated it. Yeah, that it kind of sucks. But keep in mind that means you're improving, and that your next picture will be even better. And also, don't forget that art viewers, like people who engage with art, people who like art, they'll still like it. Even if you're unhappy with the picture and you can see all the flaws in it and how you could have done it better, someone will still like your picture. And from my experience, a wider populace, the group, will always prefer the thing that you didn't care about the most. Like if you draw 4 pictures and you're really happy and proud with a couple of them, and then the one of them you're like, and that one was just kind of a quick thing, like a doodle. I didn't try too hard for that one. I guarantee you that one will be everyone's favorite. I don't know what it is. I think people, common people, not artists, or even just not the artist, I think they just don't get so lost in the art. You may be unhappy with whatever the thing was. It may be your least favorite of the group. But other people don't get caught up in all those flaws that you see. You might be looking at a picture and it's like, oh, I drew this character and I made her legs too long and her hair isn't right and I didn't do this part good and the textures are all wacky. But another person, even another artist, will still look at it and be like, what a cute girl. I like this picture of a cute girl. Nice. So, it's always good to improve. It's always good to look for ways that your art can be done better. But don't let yourself, kind of wallow in that, because someone will always like your art. It's not worthless, So, while you can see how you've improved and could do better, someone else is still very happy to look at your art and like it and favorite it. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I see artists deleting old art because they don't like it anymore, and that's their prerogative. But it's just kind of rough when it's yeah, but someone did like it. Even if just one person had that in their favorites or whatever. That person liked that picture, Why hide it when clearly at least some people like it? I don't know. That's just me though. Though I also totally understand wanting to kind of not be in a position where you can look at old art anymore. I definitely have a folder back at my parents' house, like a cabinet full of ancient pictures that I hate because I drew them when I was in like middle school and stuff, and I don't want anyone to see those. So I guess I understand to a degree. I guess once you're posting art online, it's available to a real audience, and then the relationship between you, the art, and the viewer kind of changes because there is now actually a viewer and not just like your friends that you show your pictures to. I don't know. There's no right or wrong way to do art, of course. If you want to hide away your pictures that you think aren't very good, that's totally up to you. I don't know. I just feel a little bad for the people who do like that picture. It's like, who are able to see the value in it that you can't. But I don't know. That's just me. Like I said, I don't make the rules. Do whatever you want, man. You may have noticed that I'm going about my shading in a different way than usual. So usually I do cell shading, in which I pick like a bluish purple, and I kind of lay down flat shading like how you would see in a cartoon, and I set that layer to multiply, and that's it. that's I'll do another layer where it's not set to multiply, but I just like add shine to things, and that's what I do. I don't know why I went crazy. I think it was just something about Nier's art style that required this image to have more realistic shading. And so I painted like a real artist. No, that's me being facetious. Cell shading is art just as much as painting is art. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But I did soft shading for the first time in a while, and I'm actually happy with it. A lot of times I'll go through a whole picture and I'll do soft shading, and those are the ones that more often than not I look at the finished piece and I go, cool, I hate it. And I don't know what happened with this one. It's like I leveled up, but it's like I could see the Matrix, and I'm sure in like a month I'll be looking at this and think about, oh, this is wrong, this is bad, I could have done this better. I'm willing to accept that though, because as of right now, this is the best soft shading I've done so far in my life. I used to do soft shading a lot, and I was doing it poorly. It was basically just cell shading, but with a soft edge and hard to see. It wasn't good. But I'm glad that like I actually, I don't know, I just figured it out for this one. I'm just really happy with how all the values came out. The way how I was very loose about doing it. The way how I kind of did it is, if you've been watching the video, because I know some people have mentioned that they'd like to listen to it while they do other stuff, which means that they're not watching the video, presumably. But that's fine. I'm not your mom, do whatever you want. But if you're paying attention to the visuals, I'm confidently, I've never been this confident before, but laying down big kind of splotches of color and then blending that out. I'm using the blending tool a lot, and it's kind of a very sort of almost impressionist kind of vibe that I'm working with. Like, I'm not being super particular all the time. I'm very much letting it kind of happen however it wants. Oof, hope that makes sense. That was the most artsy art college thing I've said. But yeah, it's a lot of laying down big swatches of color and then blending that out to the degree I'd like. More blending means that it becomes softer and less, like, visible. It's more emulated into, like, assimilated, rather, into the base color. And then not blending very much leads to, like, harder edges. And I'll use that more for the chains, because I tend to go pretty soft, I guess I'll use that term, for Halua. And I didn't want the chains in her skin to look like they're the same texture. You know, chains are hard, and while she's like skeletal, it's a different kind of texture. And so I didn't want everything to feel like it's the same sort of material. And I feel like I've heard people say that the blending tool is cheating, that you're not a real artist if you use it. I have no, like, no example. Like, I can't pull specific wording, but I feel like I've heard that before. And I gotta say, I don't care. Like, I could scour through the millions of brushes Clip Studio Paint has to find one that can do what I want to kind of achieve, a more painterly sort of texture. Or I can use the brush I'm used to, the G Pen, which by the way, I film everything in a way so that you can see what brushes I'm using and also be able to see my layers and color wheel for a reason. I want you to be able to see the, like, my process properly. So then that way you don't have to ask, like, what pen do you use? Because I don't know the names offhand, usually. I just want you to be able to look at the video actually and figure out how I do things. Don't ever be afraid to ask me questions, though, if you want, like, I don't know, tips. Keep in mind I don't know, I'm not the greatest artist out there. I'll give my best, I'll do my best to help you, but always remember that it's up to you to figure out what advice or criticism is actually valid to listen to. Anyway, yeah, there's no reason for me to scour through Clip Studio Paint's pens and brushes when this achieves what I wanted. It worked for the process I was working with, where laying down big pieces of color and then just blending it out is exactly like working with like charcoal or something. Except I get to work up in value. Because that's the thing with a lot of sort of traditional art, like physical art, like painting and charcoal and stuff like that. Usually you have to go from light to dark. And my brain just doesn't work that way. I've been doing digital art for most of my life. Like, the majority of my life. And so I'm used to being able to, quote-unquote, cheat and be able to put lighter values just onto a layer above my darker values. Yeah, I really struggle to not be able to do that. And that's a big reason why I like working digitally, because it works for the way I think. That's the thing. Sometimes I hear people say that, like, digital art isn't real art. Those people are stupid. There's no other way to put it. They're either stupid or assholes. Because, like, yeah, how can you watch this video and see all the effort and work I put into it and say, well, you're not a real artist because you did it digitally? You could find issue with the picture. You could, maybe you think it's not that good. That's your opinion. But to say that I'm not doing art here, you don't understand what goes into making art, if you think that. And I don't get this prerogative that people have, that it's like, oh, well, it's easier if it's digital. It's like, yeah, some things are, but I still have to do it. Like, if it's not cheating to use tools that are available to you. If you're gonna be that way, go outside and crush up some berries and smear them across some rocks, because using paintbrushes and all pre-made paint is cheating just as much as using a digital tablet and all of the accessories that come with being able to work digitally. You know? Like, the question of what is art anyway is tired. That's what, and once you, because I've got my degree in art, and once you do that, you hear the question and you talk about what is art a lot. And quite frankly, the answer is a lot of things is art. And it's up to the person. That's the thing. You know, a paper bag floating in the wind can be art to someone. I think art is just whatever is aesthetically nice to a person. You know? It's why some people like Jackson Pollock and some people don't. I love Jackson Pollock, by the way. I'm the only one in my friend group who does. I don't even get it. I'm just like, I don't know. It's got noise. I just like the way it looks. But yeah, I feel like society tends to disrespect artists a lot. It's a lot of like, go get a real job kind of a thing. Which is incomprehensible, because it's like, this is a real job? Like, just because I'm doing something I enjoy doesn't mean it's not real. You know, I don't, yeah, back in the, and that's the thing, is people will look at, like, the stuff I do and say that's not real art, or go get a real job. But then they go to museums and they speak about, you know, Donatello and Leonardo and speak with them with such reverence. Oh, Monet, he was a genius. It's like, what how is whatever I'm doing different from Rembrandt? You know, it's it's how come art was only something to be respected when it was in the past? Why reserve respect for artists just because they're doing it now? It just doesn't make any sense. But that's just me, I guess. I do feel like with internet culture sort of growing, people are respecting artists more, which is good because, like, making art, and more so sharing art, is kind of an intimate thing, you know? Like, it's a window into the artist's sort of, like, oh, I'm gonna get all artsy-fartsy with this, really flowy hippie shit. But, you know, making art, it's a window into the artist's sort of mind, into their heart. It came from them. They put effort into it. And that's what makes it intimate. It's not intimate in, like, a sexual way. It's intimate in a, this is close to the artist way. They had to put their life experiences into making this. And that's why some people don't like sharing their art. It's why you might, like, at school or something, you know, there might be a kid who always has a sketchbook with them, and you can see them drawing often, but they don't let anyone look at it. And it's because it's really, it's just a very personal thing for some people. So, you know, if you ever see someone who's, like, not particularly eager to share what they make, don't, like, try to pressure them, you know, because it is very personal. I hear a lot of people say, like, oh, I wish I could draw. One, you can. It's never too late to learn, and that's all it is. No one is born with the sheer talent to illustrate like a master, because that's just not how this works. You have to learn, and that's just the thing. Some people have taken the time to learn. But you know, so people who look at artists and say, oh, I wish I could draw, all I can do is stick figures. I guess they just don't understand how much of your personal, like, investment has to go into art, because I feel like those are often the same people who are more eager to kind of, oh, come on, let me just see, you're such a good artist, I've seen your art before, so just show me what you drew. It's not as personal to them, I suppose, because they haven't learned how to dedicate themselves openly to art. I'm getting all heady with this. I guess that's what happens when I have to talk for 40 minutes over a video. Let me know what you think, by the way. I feel like I don't get a ton of comments about the actual art I make. Don't ever be afraid to, like, let me know what you thought. Even if you're like, I didn't like it, hey, that's still your opinion. I would appreciate it if you were polite. Like, you don't have to be rude when you tell someone you don't like their art. Fun fact. Just gonna let you know. Oh, look at her. She's got so much depth. Sorry. I'm really happy with how this turned out. So yeah, I'd just be glad I didn't end up gushing about how look how good she looks for the whole dang thing. I really like Nier's color palette, by the way. It's got very muted colors, so it almost feels like it's black and white, but red is always super bright, and that's got a thematic reason for it, by the way. So, yeah, I really like how all of Yoko Taro's games play with color. It makes things really stand out in a powerful way. And I wanted to kind of try to do that here. Of course, I always try to pull from canon colors when I'm doing fan art. I use the eyedropper tool a lot to try to get colors accurately. But I especially knew that I wanted Halua's eyes, and I wanted Vice's magic to really pop. It kind of creates a relationship between Nier and Halua. Your eye is drawn to the red, and it pulls you back and forth between them as well, which is good, because it's easy to almost ignore Nier because of the composition of the picture. But I did my best to try to keep your eye going from Halua to him back to Halua, because your eye is most likely going to be drawn to her face first, because it's big, you want to look at faces, and her eyes pop out at you. But then, not only is she looking at Nier, and by proxy the audience, but also with the way she's jumping at him, her arms, like she's literally got nails pointing at Nier, and even then most of her chains are also directing you towards him. And then once you look at Nier, you are then drawn back up through his sword back to Halua. I wanted to try to make sure the composition was, I don't want to just say good, that it had a rounded composition, that it drew your eye across the page. I didn't want you to get stuck looking at one thing, and I think I did a fine job. Maybe, like I said, I'm not perfect, you know, but I am happy with how this picture turned out. I think I've done well enough at least, and that's the picture. Golly, I do hope you liked it. I do, for sure. And I just, you know, backgrounds are always hard. I don't know how well the background jives with everything, but I'm certainly happy with how this picture turned out. And I hope you liked it too. Of course, I want to thank my patrons. You're all delightful. I hope you are happy. You voted for this, so I hope you're happy with the end result. I know it may not be what you all expected, because it is different from my usual sorta deal. I do tend to just draw a character standing around, and that may have been what you expected, but I hope you're not disappointed with this foray into more in-depth art. Boy howdy, I hope so, just because it took me 5 hours to draw. Good gravy. Okay, have a good one. Thank you so much for watching.